New Jersey Devils are let.
I feel like I'm at a game. Oh my gosh. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the
Here, Barrett.
Hey, what's up, buddy?
Not much, man. How about you?
You know.
It's a Monday night, having a beer.
Having a beer. Talking hockey.
So
That's about it.
it was kind of a, yeah. So deadline day today, and watching the Sportsnet update, whatever they had, their live trade tracker, seemed like nothing happened until about 2 p.m.
Yeah, it seemed like, and then a few big things happened this afternoon, but it was pretty quiet all day. And
Yeah,
I don't know.
a lot of Western
There's something-
moves.
Yeah, and some of the moves that they thought that were going to happen, McDonough getting moved, that happened. Carlson didn't go anywhere, which wasn't really a big surprise. I didn't think he was going to get moved. But yeah, relatively quiet. Devils picking up Patrick Maroon. It's a big deal.
Yeah.
So nice little move.
I feel like it was right before that deal was announced. I think I texted both you and Sam saying, "Well, what are we gonna do a show even if there are no trades?" And then it's like, boom, there was that trade. It was like perfect timing.
Yeah.
Perfect. I think it's a great deal. Only a third rounder, and they finally listed the prospect, JD Dudek, which I had seen somewhere that it was still like a college player.
Yeah, and everybody started
But
freaking
that's-
out that it was Riley Walsh.
You know what? There are a lot of overreactions to this trade already, both good and bad.
Yeah.
Even when he said, Maroon said that he would be open to re-signing with the Oilers, and people all turned on the guy right away.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, you don't want to be here. It's like the guy hasn't even probably left his house all day. I'm sure someone asked him. I'm sure, and I'm sure the question just came as well, would you come back to, Edmonton even after being traded? He was probably like, yeah, I'd be open. So no need to hate the guy on that.
Yeah, let's not us forget.
Let
that,
him
the
get
same
here
question-
first.
Yeah, agreed. And let us not forget that that same question was asked to Adam Henrique, when he went to Anaheim, and he said the same exact thing. So you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not. I would just suppose that's a natural reaction. You haven't been to the other team. Like you said, that he probably didn't even get out of his driveway yet, to head to the airport to go to Pittsburgh. So I don't know. I think it's a great move. Good character guy, works his ass off on the ice, and I think he fits right in the club. Same thing with that Grabner move, which was crazy that broke, while we're on our podcast last
while we
week.
were live.
Yeah, that was pretty wild. But and then going to the game, going to the game on Saturday, which was incredible, which we'll talk about. But
Yeah, it was.
You see Grabner on the ice, and Grabner looked comfortable. He looked like he fit right in.
Yeah, no, he did. And I got a text the day after that Grabner trade from a really close friend of mine who is a Ranger fan. Poor life decision, but that's not for me to judge.
Yeah.
He said that we were, his take was we were getting an awesome, solid two-way player, which I was very happy to hear because with him being a Ranger, I just didn't pay much attention to much on that roster, for obvious reasons. But yeah, it was good. It was two good pickups, right at the very end. I don't know. I'm happy with it, but picking up Maroon, and I think I floated this to you earlier today. He's more of a, he's definitely a depth guy, and you gotta think that means that Johansson is, pretty far off from returning. That would be my thought, at least. I could be wrong. I'm not a doctor, but
yeah, it's unfortunate, but I think that's probably true. It's second concussion in a month and a half span, 2 month span. So you got to figure he's probably gone under the protocol. It's already been how many games since that Boston game? I think he's approaching 10 games already. And
yeah, it feels like it's been forever.
Yeah, and he's probably not.
That was pre-All-Star break.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and
think about that. That's been a while. It pre-All-Star break it feels like forever ago.
Yeah, exactly. And, it's funny. Like I kind of thought that Ray was going to go after a defenseman today, and I think that was conventional wisdom was that he was going to go after a defenseman. So, like you said, seeing them pick up another left winger, where we have a lot of left wings. I guess that just kind of solidified that there's probably no timetable for Johansson to come back. And hey, when he does come back, that's a nice addition if he can just jump back into it, and it gives him the flexibility to, kind of ease his way in and not have to worry about jumping up onto that second line and, or going into big money situations and feeling the pressure right away.
Yeah. And he'll, he won't have to feel that pressure right away. He can, come back in. I even think we spoke about this on Thursday night about possibly, a trade for him and knowing what that timetable would be. No moves for any goaltenders, so I guess it means Corey Snyder is definitely going to be back shortly. I read today that he was not going to go to Pittsburgh, but he was going to join the team in is that Florida coming in? Yeah, Florida. So he's close, but they still still not there. I really hope that they ease him back into the lineup and don't just throw him right back out to the Wolves, because that's definitely an injury you don't want to rush.
Yeah, and let's hope they build off of this last, and that was a huge game. I know both of us were there. Sorry, I couldn't meet up with you after the game. I actually drove in with my parents, so they were like, after we saw the 3 stars announced, they're like, let's get out of here, and I'm like, all right. So I didn't try, but
we tried. Yeah, I know. Yeah, you with a name like yours and a ride to the game, perfect.
Yeah, exactly. But that was, dude, that the ceremony, which we'll get to and everything, just the atmosphere in the building that night was a playoff atmosphere, and the place was going crazy. I mean, when Palmieri scored that goal, or the first of his 2, oh my God. I mean, nuts. That felt like playoff hockey, back in 2012. So let's hope that gave the team a taste of like, hey, this is what it could be like. This is how it could be. And, if we really, if we make a run at this. So, no time, but time now is to get it going.
Yeah, those atmospheres, like in 20, that we last felt in 2012, have been there, spots here and there, but it hasn't been consistent, and that's the perfect feeling to get this late in the season in this type of a run. I know that the Brodeur game was also done in a February, but it was early in February because I found my Brodeur puck today or the other day and I saw the date on it. So I wonder if that was done by design to have it a little bit later in the season, maybe give them a little push towards the end, something that they could, use to build towards that playoff run that they, possibly might need. And it's, we're in that position that we can make this run and we can definitely make it to, into the playoffs. We just gotta, keep the consistency up. No more of these 3-4 game slides. That's just going to kill us all the way down. I mean, looking at the standings now, we're in one of the wild card spots. 72 points. All right, so we got 5 ahead of Columbus, and we're only 4 back of Pittsburgh. Actually, 4 back of both Pittsburgh and Philly, and 5 back from Washington. This Metro division is just insane.
Yeah, it's tight. It's tight. I mean, let's see. Philly's playing tonight. Washington's playing tonight, and Columbus is playing tonight. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe. Let's see.
I'm waiting for the end. Okay, so what Columbus is up on Columbus is up on Washington. That's not really good since Columbus is nipping at our heels. Philly's 0-0.
It's so the Columbus Capitals game is like it's like pick your poison. If the Capitals win, then they go up 6 games on us, and if the Blue Jackets win, that means they're only 3 points behind us. And that's how it's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it's going to be for the rest of the year. And I feel like now we hit that point in the season where the trade deadline's over, all that kind of like speculation of who's going to stay, who's going to go. Now you look in the locker room and you're like, this is it. This is who we got. This is who we're going to roll with for the rest of the year. Patrick Maroon's coming into a locker room with, I think, 4 or 5 guys, Vatanen, Palmieri, Lovejoy, and Hall, who he's all played with.
That he knows. Yeah, I was going to bring that up.
Yeah, so I mean, he's coming into a comfortable situation, so, or at least he knows a few people.
And I also read somewhere that he had experience with Hines too as a coach, and possibly Shiro, but I could be wrong on that one. But it seems like it's someone that the Devils, Shiro, did research on, knew he could fit right in. Which we were wondering that on Thursday, if they were going to trade for someone, is it going to mess up with the is it going to mess up the the locker room? Is it going to screw up that chemistry? But if they brought in a guy who has experience with other guys on the team that should be able to fit right in, that's what you want. You want someone that's just going to slot right in. You don't have to really worry about it, and you just kind of move forward from there. So it's and especially for only a 3rd rounder and a prospect, it's like a no-brainer deal.
Yeah, and I mean, some people will scream from the mountaintop that you're giving up a 3rd rounder and a prospect for a guy that you're not even sure you're going to sign at the end of the year. I mean, if it seems like Ray is making the push to at least get into the playoffs this year. The reality is you look down in Pittsburgh and you see what they've done. Adding Brassard, that team is super deep. You look at a couple other teams. Look at the Blue Jackets, who we've had, an impossible time to beat this year. So you look around, you see all these other teams that are relatively, stacked. You have Washington. They won't get out of the first round, but at least they'll be in the first round. So I mean, it looks like he's prepared to just push into the playoffs, and if they get in, who knows? You never know. Maybe they make some noise, and maybe they, get through the first round, get into the second, and then who knows what goes on from there. You have a rested Corey Schneider, and maybe he gets hot at the right time, and they go on a crazy magical run. So it seems like he's loading up on like good character, fitting the mold kind of guys.
Yeah, no, very true. And just because you mentioned Washington, I do have to bring up that tweet that you had texted both Sam and I, saying that Russia winning the gold without Ovi is the most Caps thing ever. That was great. That was great.
I read that and I laughed for like an hour straight just thinking about that. Because I just picture Ovi just sitting on his couch, like looking at the TV, just like completely shocked.
Yeah, like that could have been him.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's great. It also seems like though that you know, in Maroon we picked up someone that is, you know, willing to mix it up a little bit too.
Mm-hmm.
Which I wonder if that's in response to, you know, to a couple of the cheap shots, you know, like against Hall and against Johansson. I wonder if that's why they brought him in. Just as an almost as an enforcer, but he's not really a true enforcer, but he can mix it up if need be.
Yeah, and now you don't have to really rely on Miles Wood to be that guy. And you know, maybe they want Miles to more focus on his offensive side, and you can see that this year. You know, in that game on Saturday, I can't remember who it was from the Islanders jumped on Miles Wood's back, and dragged him to the ground. Then there was another guy that jumped on Butcher and spun him to the ice, which, by the way, no call. And the refs that night were brutal, absolutely brutal. I mean, I've heard
I feel like it's a constant
before,
thing that we run into.
Oh my God! During that the PK, I think it was in the third period, and Coleman, you know, brought the puck down and was grinding down low, and he got tripped. The crowd boos. He gets tripped again, and then the place just booed. I mean, I've never heard it boo that loud before. It was crazy. And by the way, that was another dude that I was glad to see stick around and not get traded off, was Coleman. You know, he's been working his tail off. And, you know, Stafford as well. Maybe they might have floated a trade out there with Stafford in it or Jimmy Hayes in it and just couldn't get anything for it. But, you know, it's good to see who they're bringing in. But now you're kind of seeing, you know, which way this roster is going to go.
And Shiro had said before that he wasn't gonna, you know, mortgage the farm just to get something for this year. So, you know, and we've always talked about, you know, for weeks, like, you know, who would you give up? Who would you give up? And obviously, you know, they didn't want to give up anyone because we didn't, you know, aside from the prospect, but it was something that they probably really like, the atmosphere they have now. They like the mix of players they have now, and they found someone that was going to fit. It seems like they weren't going to go out and make a trade for the sake of making a trade. It was probably one of those situational things where they were only going to make a trade if it was going to benefit the team without having to sacrifice too much. You know, it would always be interesting to see what the possible, you know, offers that were floated out there would have been. You know, just to see if there was anything for these guys. You know, it's without question we're one of the fastest, youngest teams in the league. You know, and I'm sure that there were some teams that were probably looking to snag one or two from our, you know, from what we have. And it would have been interesting to see what those offers were, if there were any.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And you know what's funny is, like, we talked about this before about, you know, who might be going out, and because Henry got traded, it was one of those things like, oh, well, nobody's really officially safe. I think, you know, that the whole Carlson thing, as great as it is to get somebody like that, and as great as it is, you know, to get a superstar, especially a superstar defenseman, you know, imagine how much they would have had to given up to just even, you know, facilitate a trade for him. You know, you look at some of the trades that happened in the NHL, like how many first round picks were just like thrown around like nothing. It's pretty wild. Like it's a little crazy to think that there's a lot of teams that just kind of took like a lot of assets and just like, here you go, like, here, first round pick, sure, no problem. You know, Stastny, yeah, you got it, first round pick,
and conditional picks too.
Yeah,
you know, a lot of conditional picks, which means that fans of some of the bottom teams are going to be rooting for for some of the top teams. For example, our poor life decision neighbors in blue now have to become Lightning fans if they want to get another first round pick. They got to hope that the Lightning do well. There it is.
It's funny because you saw the trades coming. They sent out that boo-hoo letter to all their fans, and they're like, "Oh, we're sorry, guys. Like, we got to sell off the team." And
yeah.
But honestly, it's if you're a fan of that 2014 team that went to the Cup, I guess you're now a Lightning fan because half of their defensive core is now down in Tampa Bay.
Yeah, but, it's like Rangers South.
It's so weird. It's weird how I think there's four defensemen, or at least let's see, Strawman, Girardi, McDonough, and then there's somebody else. But anyways, I think that the moves that they got, the moves that they did, Ray's doing it the right way. If they make the playoffs, they make the playoffs. But if they don't, they're going towards that right direction. The whole feeling in the beginning of the season was like, oh, this is kind of like lucky, and let's just ride the wave. But now you're watching, and it's like, wow, then maybe this team is for real. Like we're past the halfway point, and they're still hanging in there. Maybe this team is for real. So I think these two moves help them move forward in that direction.
Yeah, well, we're definitely for real ahead of schedule. I didn't expect this season to turn out the way it was. I mean, to have a winning season would have been great. To squeak into the playoffs would have been even better. But with as tight as the Metro Division is, I think just squeaking into the playoffs would be considered a really successful, making the playoffs. Not even getting in, convincingly, just being there with as tight as the division is, I think is just as much as coming in first. Which coming in first in the conference really means nothing. I mean, ask the Capitals and the Rangers how those President's trophies, how much they're worth in their history. It's worth nothing. All you got to do is get to the tournament, and that's all it is. It's a tournament. All you got to do is get there, and we're almost there. And after 5 seasons of nothing, we're almost there, and it's a great feeling to have again.
I agree. And by the way, Devils fans, all Devils fans out there, Periscope, Facebook, all of you guys, thank you very much for watching. Think about this. The next time you get a Ranger fan that tells you anything about the Kovalchuk deal, I want you to just look at them straight in the eyes and just say, Nash, Yager, Gretzky, Gomez, Holik. Just start going down the names of contracts that they've given to these big superstars that never panned out to be anything. I mean, we got guilty of that maybe once with Kovalchuk, which, by the way, will probably be floating across the river next season, wearing blue.
Do you really? No, you know what though? I don't think he's gonna go there. I don't think he wants to go to a rebuilding team. There's no way he's gonna go to a team that's in a massive rebuild like that.
Yeah.
He probably wants to come, because I forget how old he is. I think he's about the same age as me. And he's gonna want to come in, and if he wants to win a cup, so he's my age. He's gonna want to come in and win a cup in the next 2 seasons and then retire for good.
Yeah.
That's probably what he wants to do.
So
and there's no way he's going to go to a team. Yeah, well, it's either going to be this area or Florida, and Tampa Bay would probably be it. But I would imagine that Tampa Bay would have to clear some space for him too. Unless we're still, paying something on that massive contract.
No, we're not. We're completely free from that. So here's
right,
a question
good.
for you. If he came back to the NHL, right? Free agent.
Mm-hmm.
And he signed with the Devils. How do you feel? And that's a
I
good
take him
question
back
for
after the way he played in that tournament for the Olympics. I would definitely take him back, because I said this before. I give him. Yeah, it sucked he left and then he retired. Quote unquote, retired from the NHL. However, he came right out and said, I'm retiring because I want to go play back home. Fine. Great. He didn't blow smoke up our ass like Zach Parise did, saying, I'm going to be here, I'm going to be here, I'm going to be here, drag his feet, drag his feet, drag his feet. We miss out on other players because he drags his feet. And then he all of a sudden go, oh, I want to be home, and he signs with. That's my big thing with Covey, and that's why I would take him back, because he came right out and said, I want to go home. Okay, fine. You're honest? Cool. But I would absolutely take him back, especially if he's going to play the way he played in that Olympic tournament. I'd absolutely take him back. That's his shot a couple of times. That, a couple of those goals he scored with just his shot alone was just incredible.
Oh yeah, I mean the dude's super talented, and I have a Kovalchuk jersey still hanging in my closet, for a reason.
So do I.
One is because I could never bring myself to burning it because I'm not stupid, but
yeah,
it's just I always held out hope, and then like this past summer I was like, oh my god, maybe he'll come back, and it'd be kind of cool to see him back for like a year or something like that. And then you get the feeling and the notion that he doesn't want to come back to New Jersey. He doesn't want to come back to the Devils. And if he doesn't, he doesn't. You know what I mean? Like you said last podcast, like why get hung up on whether a player is going to come back or not, or who's here and who's not here. And, feeling like you've been jilted by an ex-girlfriend or something like that. It's like, who cares? You know what I mean? And the city of it, look at what we have now. Be grateful for what we have now. And we have a dude on our team right now who has a 21 game scoring streak. Like Taylor Hall.
Yeah.
If he's not in the conversation for the MVP this year, then the NHL is a joke. Like, it's unbelievable what he's been able to do. And I just, like, you sit back and you're like, that's the guy I want to lock up for the next, 7-8 years.
And I hope they do. I really hope they do lock him up and that he stays. And you know what? And again, I don't want to, and I'm hoping he's being genuine by saying that he likes being here. He feels comfortable here. He wants to stay here. I mean, with all hope, we re-sign him. And I got to say hi to my buddy Dave Decker. He just gave me a shout out. What's going on, Dave? With all hope, though, we'll have number 9 retired, not with the player we were all assuming would be retired with number 9, but have it as Hall, who I saw yesterday, today? What did I say, Monday? Yeah, so either yesterday or today. He had his number retired in Windsor. I didn't hear, and I mean, maybe I missed it. It's possible. I didn't know anything about that until after the fact. It's good for him. Windsor retired his number 4. No one will wear that number up there anymore for the Spitfires. But I hope he stays. He turns into what, we all see, and he's consistent. And that, in a few years, we were having this conversation the other night. What other numbers, next, other than Sarge, hopefully it's number 9.
Mm-hmm. Which, by the way, I want to say this to all of our friends out there in Periscope and Facebook and Twitter and everywhere else. We need to start a petition to get Sergei Brulin's number retired. I know his numbers aren't the best. I know his numbers are not the best, and it's not like he was, going out there and putting 30, 40 goals up and, really shooting the lights out. But he was a core player, and he was one of the main reasons that. Well, not one of the main reasons, but he was a big part of those 3 Stanley Cup championships. And I mean, for crying out loud, we're 5-0 during these number retirements. We need to start retiring more numbers because, first of all, the atmosphere.
No, because then we'll turn into the Rangers. No, because then we'll turn into the Rangers who want to retire. Everyone's number now.
The Rangers retired a number the night after the Devils had Eliash's night. And I'm driving somewhere, and I flip on the radio and I turned over to ESPN just for a second to see what was going on, and it was a Rangers broadcast, and they're like, "Oh, we have so and so's night tonight. We're gonna retire his number," and I just busted out laughing. I'm like, "How many? how many numbers are you going to retire? Like, after a while, it's you're going to start seeing Ranger players wearing like 101, 102, 103.
You know what? There are soccer teams in the Mexican Soccer League that are allowing 3-digit numbers on the jerseys now. It looks weird. Just to see a player with like 310 running around on the field, it's insane. And 3 numbers barely fit on the back of a soccer jersey. But yeah, Montreal has that issue too with retired numbers. That's why some of those Montreal Canadian numbers are so, I guess you would call it untraditional. Anything from 40 down to 1, because I think Montreal has. I'm going to look this up now. Most retired numbers.
It's like the New York Yankees. The New York Yankees are retiring way too many numbers. It has to be like one of those things. Like, and I think that's one of the better things that Lou did when he was here with the Devils is made that a point to not just willy-nilly start retiring numbers for the hell of it. And, it was guys that had severe impacts on the team. And you could point to everybody that has their number retired, every single one of them. And all 5 of them, you could say, were pivotal in not just winning championships with this organization, but making the organization what it is today, and really help define, the culture of the Devils, especially like, you got Ken Danico, Scott Stevens. These guys were, foundations in our blue line, and then Scotty Niedermayer, and I mean it just made the people that they have retired make sense.
Oh, totally. It's also you can't forget too. It's also early on in the franchise's lifespan too. Devils have only been around for 35 years. They're they aren't going to have a ton of numbers to retire. There we go. There's the cup. I just counted. Montreal is what was it? 18 or 19? I forgot. It's like 18 or 19 numbers retired.
Damn.
And the Rangers have 9. Yeah, the Canadians have the most. The Rangers have 9. All right, I scrolled all the way down. Toronto's got quite a few. One.
I don't know. I always find that to be like a sacred thing if you're going to get your number retired. But
19.
Let's talk about that night, because I have to admit that during the entire ceremony, while everything was going on, I must have teared up at least like 4 or 5 times. Patty was definitely one of my all-time favorite players. There was a lot to it that got me choked up. Just like his personality, first of all, was great. And it really shined through, especially very humble, and I've met him a few times, and he was always very humble, very nice. When the guy yelled out, "one more season," he just looks up and he's like, "No," or he just he's just a cool dude. Like, he's a nice guy, and seeing him with his daughters, like that, that being a father of soon to be 2 girls, that always pulls at my heartstrings. But it was just he walked. By the way, I sat in section right down near the glass. I was in section 10.
Yeah,
10 or 6, I can't remember.
Yeah, you were down there by the Zamboni door, right?
Yeah, right there, and that's where he walked through the crowd, and it was pretty wild. Like, all of a sudden, I'm like, what the hell? Everybody's freaking out behind me, and I turn my head, and I'm like, holy crap! There he is. He's walking down the aisle. But I also like saw Chico Resch run by me. I was like, this is a nice little section.
Yeah, I thought that was a cool touch, coming down through the crowd. That was just really cool. That was not like a separation. That was blending the player and the fans, which I thought was awesome. Which just seems like it fits his personality. Like, I wonder if they asked him, or if he said, or if he made that suggestion, because whoever had that idea, it was brilliant. It was perfect for him to come walking down from the concourse. It was so cool.
Yeah, I was like, damn, I couldn't go up there and like, grab a soda or a beer or something like that at that moment. That would have been great. But
that would have been cool.
Having him come down, and then the guys that he invited, first of all, I love that Colin White looks like a legit beer leaguer now. Like he looks
Yes, he
like
does.
polishes
I
off
noticed that too.
a handle of Jack and then just like comes out and just like throws on his skates and like levels a few dudes and like belly laughs about it and skates off and has a beer on the bench. Like he is.
Yeah, right.
he's put on a few after his playing days.
Because you know what though? Do you blame him? He probably had to keep up everything for so long. It's like once you retired, it's like, oh great, I can sit still. I'm sure he has, had quite a few
Well, I
beers
mean,
since he's retired, which he can't blame the guy. Yeah, right.
a funny
That whole cast, that whole you're right that whole cast that he invited was all those it was great.
A quick funny story about Colin White is I met Colin White and Marty at an event. And I have to say this, that Marty Brodeur is one of the nicest dudes I've ever met for being like probably the biggest superstar that I've ever met in my life. And the most just chill, laid back dude. Standing there talking with him, he was there with his brother and his wife, and he was like, "Oh, this is my brother," and blah blah blah. And the funny thing about it is they just played the Islanders the night before, and he was just talking to us about the game, like how you and I are talking now, just kind of casually talking about it.
That's so cool.
And I was like, "Oh man, that save that you had on Grabner was crazy." And he goes, "That dude is so fast. He came in so quick." He's like, He goes, "Half of that reaction was just like I just kind of reacted. I didn't even think about it." But it was wild. It was wild to hang out with him. And then I went into this tent area, and there was Colin White, and I polished off like 4 or 5 shots with him, and like that dude was an animal, just straight up.
That's
animal.
awesome.
And he was like loud and fun, like wrapping his arm around me. I'm like, this guy's either gonna beat me up or buy me a beer. Like it was like the coolest. It was like one of the coolest moments of my life. But both of them very, very nice.
We need to have a drinking event with former players. We got to somehow put that together. A drinking event with former Devils. That would be so much fun.
Oh my god, that'd be incredible. I'd definitely have to Uber it.
Yo, absolutely, absolutely. I thought Eliash's speech was perfect. What?
I'm sorry. I just looked down. So, by the way, if you see me going like this a lot, it's because I have my phone on my lap, so I'm trying to read our Facebook feed and like see if anybody's writing in. I try to like both of us were talking about trying to connect with everybody and stuff. And I like that. I was quoted, "Colin White looks like a legit beer leaguer." So that's nice. I hope that floats in the universe forever.
Colin White is more than welcome to join my team. Just throwing that out there. If he wants to join my team, he's more than welcome. We do have the greatest New Jerseys, so he's more than welcome to join Bowen Storm. But anyway, back to the ceremony. I thought it was well done. I thought Eliash's speech was awesome. The only thing I think they could have done without was the long speeches by ownership. They should have just let Eliash, go. Whatever Eliash wanted to do, however long he wanted to talk, just let him talk.
Yeah, but you know what? I thought
other than that,
you could see how moved they were about the seats that they dedicated to him, which I thought was a super nice touch.
Mm-hmm.
I really have to say when when Harris and Blitzer, when they bought the Devils, I was kind of like, all right, they have a weird interest. They have the 76ers said they have interest in Philadelphia. And they're saying all the right things like, oh, we want to keep the Devils in New Jersey and we want to make them champions again and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, we've heard this kind of stuff before, but they're doing it the right way. They're doing it the right way. During the ceremony, they reveal that, or after, during that night, they reveal that they extended John Hines another year, which I thought was pretty awesome.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah, so John Hines got a contract extension. And then they immediately started talking about how they want Taylor Hall to be the backbone of the Devils for a very long time. And I think it was Harris was talking about how he looks forward to seeing number 9 put in the rafters. And, saying these things like that. And which, if I'm Taylor Hall, like finding out that the owners of the team are basically saying like, we want to build the future of this team around you, I think is huge. I think that's awesome. They even mentioned his contract situation. They're like, Ray knows when he needs to work on it, and he'll figure out the perfect time. But they're essentially saying like it's a done deal. You know what I mean? Or alluding to the fact that Ray Shero has already got it in the works. That's effing amazing. Like, that they don't meddle in the team. They're doing the whole thing that they did with the 76ers. Like, hey, just trust the process. We might have years where we suck horribly, but the results are starting to show this early for the Devils. And like, you can even see it, with the 76ers. Like, these results are starting to come around. So I think we got the right guys.
Yeah. And no, I do too. And I think we got lucky by getting that.
I do too.
Getting that first pick. that was a stroke of luck.
Extremely.
We suffered. We suffered to get that stroke of luck. But to get that, and then but you can even see with that draft pick, they picked the right of the two guys. They
oh my god.
Between Patrick and Nico, it was like, we were, I know Sam and I were talking about it, leading up to that, and then it was just like they got it right.
Yeah. And it's funny because even talking about it in the early part of the show, like, who did they bring into the Devils? They bring in Grabner and Maroon, and they bring in two guys that fit the mold and fit the system, and fit the team. Sami Vatanen, and oh my god, if I hear another person hate on him, I'm gonna punch somebody in the face. Yeah, I'm gonna go out and buy a Sami Vatanen jersey because this dude has been a beast since joining the Devils. Like, he leads all defensemen in ice time and points right now. You know what I mean? Like, he has, brain fart moments because he's in a brand new system. I don't have to say this every single, podcast that we have. Just give the dude a break. He's doing pretty well out there. Ben Lovejoy. Dude, Ben Lovejoy is like a solid defenseman. He's on the PK. His game has been pretty good this year. Our defensive core is starting to come around. They have games where you're looking at the TV and you're like, we just gave up 55 shots. How the F is this possible? And where's the defense? And we're letting up these weird chances. But at the same time, when they get it together, they look good. They look good. Look at that game. Look at the game on Saturday. A 2-1 crazy game. There was points where Kincaid looked like a starting goalie. There was points where our defense looked like a shutdown defense. There was points where, our forwards didn't look like they knew how to pass the puck, but they found a way and they battled through.
They did.
And that was a huge 2 points in a huge game.
We talked about that Thursday. The great teams find a way to win when they shouldn't. And the Devils did that on Saturday, thankfully, because especially, playing a division rival, you can't give up points to a division rival, and they didn't. They didn't go to overtime and ended with a win in regulation, which is what you want. You're not giving the Islander like a lifeline point. We found that way to win, and I'd agree. Kincaid looked like he had one of his best games in a while. So I was happy with his performance. But also at the same time, blips like this where the Devils have gone through some rough patches this season, gone through some adversity. You want to have that leading into the playoffs. You want to know what it's like to need to grind out a win, to win a game you're not supposed to win, how to pick yourself up from a slide, how to stop a slide. You don't want to face your first adversity, your first slide in the first round of the playoffs, because you'll be out quicker than before you know it. So you want to have these, points where you got to learn. And, my guess is they've been using this as like, all, teachable moments to say, hey, you know what, in the playoffs, you got to turn this around. And you got to figure out a way to turn around real quick. Otherwise you're going home early. You're making a tea time before you know it.
And when we get into
it's going to help in the long run.
Yeah. And when you get into the playoffs, you're going to get into a situation where, you're going to have to go up against a team that is just, fully stacked. You're going to go up against the Tampa Bay. You're going to go up against a team where the odds makers are going to say there is no chance in hell that the Devils have, any shot of even coming away with one win. And you get the Barry Melrose and the guys like that, and they'll say, they're a cute story and they're coming into the playoffs and they're not going to win a single game and they're going to get, taken to task and blah, 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 blah. This team feels like one of those teams that can prove a lot of people wrong. And the reason why is because it feels like they're building the right way. They're building with character, they're building with youth, and they're building with speed. And bringing in, a Patrick Maroon, who, like you said earlier, is a guy that will punch you in the face, if you say the wrong thing, or or you bring in a guy like Grabner, who you can put on the PK and know that you're going to be in safe hands and not have to spend a Palmieri, or not have to worry about spending a Nico Hischier on the PK, or even a Pavel Zacha. Like, you're freeing up some of the guys that you need to rely on scoring, so they're not out there killing penalties, where you can rely on those lunch pail guys like your Colemans and your, if Gibbons ever comes back, which is another question. When he comes back, what's going to happen to him? I assume like he probably will be sent down to the AHL, depending on how things kind of shake out. But these are good problems.
This is another great problem to have. Yeah, it's a perfect problem to have, because you want to have that depth, especially going into the playoffs, because, you have a guy that gets injured, first round, halfway through second round. You need someone that's going to slot right in. And, the way the Devils are going, they can just slot a player in and just fill a hole. And, they're building their roster with guys that, fit the mold, which is perfect come playoff time. It's perfect come playoff time. You're not relying on just one person, which means that if the team just shuts that one player down, they've got you beat. You want to have it so if the team shuts, one player or even a full line down, that you got three other lines that are just going to pick up the pace behind them and then do as much damage. You want to have all that firepower at your disposal.
Yeah, exactly. There's also a lot of people out there that were, the Devils need, and this is the operative word, is like, they need to go out and get like Erik Karlsson, or they need to go out and make a big splash, or get some guy that with a lot of flash and whatever. And they can do, Karlsson will be a free agent sooner than later. You can make a run at him when he hits the market, but right now, don't, like you said, don't mortgage the future. And they're going to put themselves in a good position where even if they do get knocked out in the first round, now you're giving everybody a little taste of that playoffs. Now you're giving Taylor Hall exactly what he wanted to see come out of this team of, okay, now we're going in that right direction. I've finally made the playoffs. I'm finally in, out of the regular season and not playing golf in April. I don't know. I think it's pretty exciting. It's, you were just saying you can roll four lines and have confidence in all four of those lines. You can have a Brian Boyle on your fourth line, and in a really crunch time that you need a big time face-off one, you can put a guy out there who's fresh and win you a face-off in an area. You can put out, a third line that consists of like Travis Zajac and Coleman and Neeson, who've been, rolling pretty well together. It's pretty amazing. Like, they're getting deeper. They might not be as deep like the Pittsburgh Penguins kind of deep, where they have crazy amount of talent, but they're deep and solid, which is a good way to look at it.
Yeah, and that being deep as well also means that there won't be any complacency when it comes to if you have a bad game or two, that's one thing. But if you just get complacent with your position in the team, there's going to be someone that's more than happy and more than able to replace you. That complacency won't be there. Having a deep team as well, and you want that.
Yeah. No, I agree. And by the way, Sarah, really quick, my background is pretty boring, I know, but soon enough, my downstairs office will be done. thanks to my other buddy Bill, or my other buddy Will. Down there. So it's getting there slowly but surely. My little office is it's working its way. I collected another bobblehead for it, so
yeah, we were talking about that on Thursday. We were talking about all the memorabilia you were rifling through to go, oh man, what do I do with this? And you're happy to have it all.
I know. I'm gonna have to set up a nice little shelf and put everything up there. And I got that Chico Resch stick, which is pretty wild. That little replica goalie stick that was a giveaway one night. So
yep. I got that, and I got the Brodeur one.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I got them both courtesy of our a really good friend of the podcast, Durango Steve from Molnar Roofing. He was an awesome friend, and I did him a favor, and he repaid me by being able to get me both of those little sticks. So very grateful for that. They're sitting on my shelf in my in my music room amongst some of my other stuff. But yeah, just they're so cool. Both those little sticks are just so cool. You know what we got sidetracked talking about? We got sidetracked talking about that ceremony. We didn't even get.
Oh yeah.
We kind of got sidetracked, but the Devils know how to they know how to put on a ceremony. And I'm right with you. I got choked up as well because that was I was watching some of the last pieces of my childhood go up into the rafters of the Prudential Center. Elias was drafted in 94, and that's right as I started playing and getting into hockey. And he was part of that whole experience of being a Devils fan early on in the mid 90s as they were waking up from that those dismal years in the 80s, becoming one of the powerhouses of the league, which was great. And it's one of the last of the of the originals, as far as I'm concerned, from when I started paying attention. And I was right there with you. I was definitely tearing up. And then seeing that number 26 go up, and then because of my vantage point, the number 26 went up and it disappeared because I couldn't see it from the last row. It was going up, and then it was gone.
I love that the new the new center ice display, but my God, is that thing massive and distracting. There were sometimes, and
yes.
I was pretty lucky. My old man scored some pretty amazing seats for the game, and my parents have season tickets, and their season tickets are actually pretty down. They're down low as well. And every once in a while, when I get to go, I get spoiled now. I used to be up top only, and that was like, if I'm not standing all the way at the top of the stadium, like I'm not enjoying the game kind of guy. But the older I get, I'm like, these seats down low are kind of comfortable and real close to a bathroom, so it's kind of nice. But but honestly, like, sitting down low is like, I'm sitting there looking up at this huge, massive screen, and I'm just like, man, I wish I could play Call of Duty on this or something. But like, I'm watching this massive screen, and I'm like watching the play like going on, and all of a sudden I hear like bam, and like I look forward, I'm like, oh yeah, the play is like right in front of me, and I was so distracted with it.
I was doing the same thing. I wanted to watch. I wanted to be able to see Elias speak, and from my perch way up top in the in the high altitude, I couldn't really see Elias. She was merely just a small little figurine on the ice. And I was doing the same thing. I was like getting mesmerized what's on this on the big jumbotron, and then like let me look at him down there, and I just kind of wanted to focus on that. But that thing is awesome. I don't know about Call of Duty. I'd rather do like a side-scrolling like Mega Man 2 on that board. That would be awesome.
Oh, that'd be pretty dope. Or like NHL 4.
Yeah. No, Blades of Steel. Blades of Steel on that screen would be awesome.
Steel. My God. That's the only reason I want to get that little miniature Nintendo, is just to get like a handful of games. Blades of Steel.
Oh, I got one of the little miniature Super Nintendos coming my way.
Nice.
So I've got it.
If you don't fire
I've
up
got the.
Mario Kart
I
right
still.
off the bat,
I gotta see what's on there. I don't even know what's on there, but the opportunity came for me to get it, and I was like, yes, here's money, buy it. I do have my regular
Shut
Nintendo
up,
hooked up. Yeah, just pick it up for me, please, please, please. So I do have my original regular Nintendo set up, so that's all ready to go.
Nice. I have to compliment the new hat, the new lid. I came very close to buying one when I was at the stadium. And as I was in there, I get really claustrophobic really quick sometimes, and I was mobbed by not me personally. It's not like they're, oh my god, you're the guy from the podcast. But I was standing there and I'm like looking at the hats, and I like to take my time and I'm looking at all the different ones, and it was just too crowded. Like I feel suffocated. I got to get out of here. So
I forget when I went down. I may have gone down after the ceremony and like a little bit into the first period. I just wanted to see what they had for as far as hats. Like all the other stuff, as everyone was like, complaining that they couldn't pick it up Thursday night at the game, and like people bought like 200 of the patches. I just went online on Friday and click buy. So I got the shirt patch and the puck coming to my house, and the hat, Brodor's retirement hat, I got and I really liked, and I was hoping they would do something very similar. But they unfortunately did not. And I do like this. I do like the PE26 up front here. It's pretty cool. So
yeah,
I'm happy with it.
Yeah, it was funny. Like you see all the people, the concession people, and everybody else that had the white pin that just says Elias with 26 on it. When Brody retired, I got one from one of the beer people. So I walked up and I was like, "Oh, can I have your button? You're not going to need that." And they were like, "Oh, sure, here you go." So then I was lucky enough when this past one, I walked up to my like I said, my parents have season tickets. My mom has befriended the beer lady near her section, and
that's so cool.
Hey, Joyce, how you doing? And I was standing with my mom. She goes, "Oh, hey, this is for you," and she threw me the pin. And it was the same lady that gave it to me during the Brodeur game. So now I have like that little white pin that they wear.
Yeah.
With the retired number, which is pretty cool. But
that's pretty cool.
I don't know. It was an amazing ceremony. It was the first of all, the props on the ice are incredible.
Yeah, they did well with that. And I was so happy to see the cup and the Prince of Wales trophy, which I think is one of the most beautiful trophies the NHL has. Is that Prince of Wales trophy that unfortunately no one wants to touch, but it's one of the.
Didn't care.
If you've never, this is for all listeners out there. If you've never had the chance to get up close to that, the first time I saw it was in '95, right before Game 4. They had all the trophies on display. That thing's got this giant chunk of crystal.
My brother and I went to that.
Whatever hotel they had it at, I don't know. I was in 7th grade. My dad just drove me. They had all the trophies on display.
Yes.
Yeah, I was.
My brother and I were just talking about that. We went to that too.
Yeah,
that was so crazy. I remember that as like it was yesterday.
Oh, it was so cool. Yeah, so do I. And I remember like looking at the Stanley Cup and the guy that was like standing there next to it. And here I am, this 7th grader. Only my second season really being in the hockey, and I told the guy that was in charge of the Stanley Cup, I was like, "You better bring that tonight. You're going to need it." Just threw that right out there at the guy, like just this air of confidence, like, yeah, we're winning tonight. But going back to that Prince of Wales trophy, if you've never seen it, check it out. It's got that big chunk of crystal ice in the middle. It's got crystal icicles on the side. I think it's one of the prettiest trophies out there.
I agree.
Having those two trophies there was awesome. The whole setup was great. I think they sold the pucks, or they were going to sell the pucks that made up that stage. Whoever thought of that idea, having what was it? It was the same number of pucks as games played. That's like an attention to detail that it's like
games played or points or something.
It was something like that, and
it was over.
But that's one of those like little. Yeah, it was like it's one of those little attention to detail things that you just, someone was thinking that day and said, well, that was such a great idea.
Yeah.
Everything just looked great. Between the Elias and the Brodeur, they really know how to put on a show.
Yeah, and it's cool because it was funny. My brother flew in from Seattle just to watch the game, and be there for the ceremony, which I thought was awesome. Um, and sitting next to him and sitting next to my old man, and we're watching the whole ceremony. My brother and I, Scotty Stevens goes up and talks, and then Travis Zajac goes up and talks, and I don't know if he mentioned the fact that they got trapped in a car together during a snowstorm and had to get rescued by the cops, but that happened between Travis Zajac and Patrick Eliash. They were driving home.
He mentioned something about he did mention something about sharing a car, sharing rides or something. I don't think he went that far. I do need to rewatch that ceremony though. I want to be able to just sit and like focus and be able to hear everything like super clearly. But yes, he did mention something about rides to the rink and something like that.
And it's funny though, because one of the things that I noticed is, and I have so much respect for Zajac, and respect and admiration for Scotty Stevens, obviously, and he scares the crap out of me. Neither of them have ever taken a public speaking course in their life, and it was pretty apparent, when they were trying to give a speech. And I felt, like I was laughing about it. I was like, man, I would never tell Scott Stevens to his face that he's not really the best public speaker, because he would probably murder me. But it was just kind of funny. I was like, maybe the Devils need to offer like public speaking classes on the side. Something that
they're paid to play hockey, not to talk like you and I.
Exactly. Something I find kind of a little annoying. I boo Gary Bettman every time he comes out, but I boo him for like 5 seconds as he's walking up the podium, and then I stop booing because I actually want to hear what he says. And the same thing with Bill Daly. He walked out there, and it was like everybody's screaming during what he's trying to say, and it's like, just let the dude talk. Like, we get it. Like, the NHL, conspiracy theory has it out for the Devils, but who cares? You know what I mean? Like, it's all fun and games, but just after a while, it's like it's like rude and it's annoying. Man, I'm becoming such an old man.
I don't know why he was there.
Like, get off my lawn.
I don't know why he was there. Like, what was the point of having him there? Just to have a league representative? Like, what's 100%, the point?
Yeah. Because if you remember,
I didn't really
retired. When Marty retired, Bettman was there.
I just don't see the point to have, like, I don't know. I just don't see the point to having that there. At one point the league wanted us to go to Nashville after winning the cup, so it's like, I just don't see the point of them being there. That's just me though. I mean, and I heard like almost nothing that he said, so it wouldn't be, I wouldn't be against hearing what he said when I watched the replay, but I still don't understand the reason for him being there. Unless it's a league formality that they say if you have retirement night, you have to have a league representative there.
Probably because it's technically under the umbrella of the league, right? So it's something that's that represents the league, and it's something that the league recognizes as being, well, nobody on that team is allowed to wear 26 because it is officially retired. So I would assume that's what it is, and I think I appreciate that. I appreciate that somebody from the league is there, and it's it was and it was Daly, and it was if Bettman could have been there, he probably would have been there. But like I said, it's like, after, and it's not just the Devil fans, because everybody in the NHL boos Gary Bettman, and I think it's so funny because he like relishes in the heel. You know what I mean? Like, in that old wrestling term, like he loves being that.
Just like Marchand.
Oh no, that's a completely different. It just made me throw up in my mouth.
No. We had this conversation about him loving being the heel.
It's true. That's true, and he does. And then I got into another, conversation with somebody else, and my brother and I were talking about it, about like how the fact that the NHL, like you said, how the NHL or the Bruins didn't, say no to him going to the All-Star game was a joke, but whatever.
Yeah. It's I don't know. It's just overall it was a great night. I do want to say a shout out to Will Bauman's been commenting like crazy. He said he was crying during the ceremony, and then he lost his voice during the rest of the game. I think we're all in that same boat. That was how you couldn't be cheering that whole game and shouting and losing your voice. It was great, but we all definitely shed a tear or many during that ceremony.
Yeah.
It was just so it was well done, and then they came out. The Devils did what they needed to do against the Islanders. And it was an all around awesome night. There was no letdown there.
Yeah, and now you got to follow that game up with another strong performance tomorrow night against Pittsburgh. So
another divisional rival.
Another divisional rival. It's a team now that we're chasing, not that we're holding off, but it's just as important. These 2 points, and we're gonna be saying this a lot down the stretch. Damn, these 2 points are important. Damn, this game is huge. Last night, or Saturday night when we were walking out of the game, I must have said it 1,000 times. I was like, a win in regulation, a win in regulation. I'm like, damn, that's a big 2 points. It's a huge 2 points. Just yelling it the whole time, and thank God I didn't have to hear that yes, yes, yes thing, as they're walking out. I might not hate Islander fans as much as I hate, Ranger fans or Flyer fans. But they're so annoying. They're so annoying. I don't have a little brother, but I imagine that's what it's like having a little brother, like beat you in something. Even though they've been around, longer than us, but whatever.
There really weren't as many there that I thought there would be. With it being a divisional game, it seems like most of the tickets went to Devils fans. I will say this: there was an Islander fan walking in the door as I was walking in, and the usher kind of handed them one of the Eliash banners, and they kind of looked at it, and I was like, "I'll take it." And the guy, it was either the guy or his girlfriend gave it to me. I was like, "Sweet, thanks. Now I got 2." So that was, they were pretty cool with that.
Yeah.
Because what are they going to do with a banner?
I've been to games where they were playing the Flyers and there was a giveaway, and there was a bunch of Flyer fans. I was like, "Hey, you guys don't even like this team. I'll take that off your hands." And the guy was like, "No." I'm like, what? I'm like, you're that much of a douche?
Yeah.
So Steve Popick, hopefully I got that right. He said thoughts on the Maroon versus Rick Nash power play goal average last 2 years. So I'd have to look up the numbers to be exact, but I guess if you're bringing it up, they're probably relatively close. I don't know if you can pull those numbers up real quick.
I'm taking a look. Let me see if I can find it right now.
I'm a big fan of bringing in Maroon. I think this is going to be, like I said, bringing in Grabner, bringing in Maroon. In the beginning of the podcast, we were talking about the moves that the Devils made during the trade deadline and pretty much leading up to the trade deadline. You're not giving up much, and you're getting back. First of all, you're getting back Grabner, who can kill penalties for you, who's going to be a speed guy. You saw how quickly he fit in. If you were at the game on Saturday night or you were watching the game on Saturday night, every time he jumped on the ice, it felt like he was going to make a difference. And a lot of the times he did. And it was nice to see that it was a guy that looked comfortable. I don't know if he felt comfortable, but he looked real comfortable, which also goes back to something that we talked about earlier when you have a forward traded to a team as opposed to a defenseman. Like a forward can just jump in and fit in a lot easier than a defenseman. I think Grabner is going to be awesome for this team. I think Maroon is going to be an awesome addition to the team. By all accounts, from everybody out in Edmonton, not only is he a solid player, putting up 27 goals, 15 assists last year. He's got 14 goals, and I can't remember how many assists this year already. But you got a good character guy. You got somebody that has like a lot of personality, somebody that's funny, maybe has public speaking courses under his belt. Like just an all-around pretty decent dude and a good player So, Steve, I know it danced around your question while Shorts guy is looking up the stats. His points per game. My bad. I was blowing through your question. Points per game.
Points per game.
Points per game. My bad.
Okay. Now I'm gonna keep.
Yeah. I honestly, the funny thing is you bring up Rick Nash, and I guarantee he's going to go to Boston. He's going to do well up there. He's not going to have the pressure that he had, playing in New York. He's still going to choke in the playoffs, so it doesn't really matter. But yeah, I think Maroon.
Yeah,
Maroon is a huge addition to the team, and
yeah,
like we said about. Oh, good.
And Maroon, I know, had a really good season last year and was catching kind of some flack for kind of being a letdown for this year. But he's already got 30 points. It was 14 goals and 16 assists that he had so far this season. Playing with a pretty high, powerful offense too. So I'm real happy to see him come in, be that man up front in the power play. Hopefully change that power play around. And we'll see what happens when it when he gets out there. Yeah, I have to do further research. I mean, we've got power play goals here. Rick Nash power play goals last season. And now that I've screwed everything up with the I'm hitting things on these on the stat stuff and it's just all screwed up. That's what happens when you do stuff on the fly. So power play goals, Rick Nash. Even though we're supposed to be looking up points per game, we're gonna go power play goals because that's what I found so far.
That was my fault.
2015.
I looked down real quick and saw PPG.
Yeah, there you go. 15, 16, he had 4. 16, 17, he had 6 power play goals. Now let's go to. They've got him listed on Boston. Maroon. All right, Patrick Maroon. So we're gonna have to get back on the points per game. But yeah, 3 power play goals last year and none this year so far. So I don't know. But then again, with that high-powered offense in Edmonton, I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't really see much power play time.
Yeah, they were talking about how he's one of those players that he can play on like a grinder type of line, and he can also play some minutes with your top line if need be. He can fill in a lot of different roles. He's a good role player. One of the it's just, I think it's a smart move by Ray. You're giving up a third round pick in 2019, and you're also giving up a prospect, but you're getting somebody back that's relatively proven. And that's the thing about trading away prospects and trading away, picks and stuff like that. And a lot of people were shocked about how many first round picks were getting thrown around today like they're nothing. But you got to think about it like this. If you're giving up a first round pick for somebody who's like well established already, you're giving up a first round pick that you don't know what's going to happen. There was something that was said in that Elias in the ceremony, which Matt Laughlin, by the way, did a killer job. Like, I absolutely
I thought he did great.
Matt Laughlin and think he does an amazing job on the radio. But he's such a good master of ceremony.
He is
kind of surprised. I was kind of surprised that Doc Emmerich didn't do it, but at the same time, whatever. Laughlin did a great job. But he brought up a great point. He said there's 51 other players that were, or something like that, 51 other players chosen ahead of Patrick Elias in that draft. Only one player, Ryan Smith, played more games, but nobody outscored him.
Yep.
Nobody had more points. Nobody had more playoff points. Nobody, So you look at it and you're like, you don't really know how some of these players are gonna work out. Martin St. Louis was a 6th round pick. Either that or he's undrafted. I get him and Vinny Lecavalier mixed up.
He may have been undrafted anyway.
But my point being is you're giving up a prospect, and you it's not even 100% sure thing that prospect is going to turn into anything great. So sometimes it's it's not that bad to give up that
sometimes
to get a guy.
And sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. Growing up, I always I remember the Rangers used to always or the Rangers. Sorry, I'm looking at the Rick Nash stats, still trying to figure this out. The Devils always seem to like trade someone away, and then they would just be awesome wherever they went. That always seemed to be what would happen whenever the Devils would let someone go, which I guess still is happening with Henrique going away to Anaheim and lighting it up right away. But you never know with these prospects, and they could be great, and they could also just be a complete and total bust. We've gotten lucky. I mean, even I know it was first round, but let's not forget the Calgary Flames traded up to select Trevor Kidd over Brodeur.
Yeah.
And that was in what was he, 21, 22 that year in the draft? It was in the 20s. So it's not like Brodeur was, it's not like Brodeur was in like, the single digits of the draft pick. And obviously the Flames wanted Trevor Kidd more than Brodeur. They saw something more in Trevor Kidd. That was probably one of the biggest mistakes of the Flames franchise history, in my humble opinion. But I'm so glad that we got him over the Flames.
Yeah, and the same thing with Zach Parise. I think went like 23rd in the 2003 draft. That 2003 draft is still like one of the deepest, best drafts in the world. But you look at players that go ahead of them. You look at there's certain circumstances where, you pick this guy and he turns out to be nothing, and then you see somebody that was picked in the third, fourth round who ends up being an absolute stud. Things just happen. Like things like players just emerge and guys turn into something. And sometimes you have high hopes for people and they don't turn into anything. I remember when Yakupov was picked number 1 overall by Edmonton, he was slated to be like the next Ovechkin. Like everybody was so high on him and said, this is a sure thing, can't miss player. And you see where his career is at. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
You can never really tell 100% what a prospect is going to turn into, unless it's like Austin Matthews, Sidney Crosby. There's some that are an absolute guarantee that they're going to turn out to be who they are, but there's a lot that are.
Mm-hmm. No, and it's just a matter of, are they going to be drafted by the right team that's going to help them grow? I'm kind of surprised at how well Nico has fit in this season. Coming as first overall. And then having the season he's having, I think he's doing phenomenal for that, because there was no guarantee he was going to be able to slot right in. And
I have to say,
just those draft picks and prospects, they're a crapshoot sometimes.
And that's, if you look at it even closer to what we're looking at, is Pavel Zacha was chosen. And hey, I'm a huge Zacha supporter, and I still have all the faith in the world that this dude is going to turn into a pretty solid NHLer. But Barzal was chosen after Zacha, and you could, dude, that kid is nasty, absolute dirt. Like, he's so good. And he is just like, his skating is so fluid. His hands are lightning quick. He's going to be a stud in the NHL for quite some time. And it's one of those things where if the Islanders do miss, like say John Tavares goes somewhere else, hell, maybe what if he came to the Devils? How crazy would that be? But if Tavares leaves, I think they're in pretty good hands with Barzal. That kid is an absolute stud.
Yeah, and it's just a matter of, and who would have thought that at the time of that draft that it would have been like that, Sometimes players grow a little slower than than others, and they don't develop. And I was at the dinner with family the other day, and it's totally different sport, but we were talking about Little League World Series. You see a lot of these players, for their age group are just awesome, but they just grew up before everyone else, and then everyone catches up in high school, and very few of those kids, a lot of them don't make the major league. It's not like it's your step to the major league. They're also 13, but sometimes players just develop late, or they need just the proper coaching to get them to where they need to be. And if you get fit into the right organization, you're going to get that coaching, you're going to get that push, and then you're going to succeed.
Yeah, no, I agree. And especially defensemen. They say defensemen take like 2-3 years to develop into anything, and then they eventually turn into who they become. Like Victor Hedman is a great example of that. First couple of years in the league, he wasn't really all that great, and then he started to develop and became Victor Hedman. So, there's.
I mean, we waited for Adam Larson, and just he just for some reason didn't fit in, or he seems to have done really well in Edmonton.
Pete DeBoer was kind of like the problem with that, because he was not one of those coaches that was very young player friendly. I think if he was on the team now, I think it would be a different situation.
But again, being drafted to the right team with the right coaching staff, with the right management that's going to be smart with you, you're going to develop completely different, than not. I mean, Larson's a great example. Pete DeBoer was definitely not a young player coach, not really so much a developing coach. And some coaches are great at development, other coaches are not. And if you just happen to get drafted to that, type of team that maybe you need a little bit more coaching and that coach isn't there or available to you, you're not going to do well until you're out of that situation or the coach is gone or you're traded or sent down. So it's a matter of the situation you get into as well. And I think Larson was just, I agree. Had he been in, if he was still here, well, first of all, if he was still here, we wouldn't have Hall. That's one thing.
Yeah, exactly.
But in this system, I think he would fit in so much better. Yeah. Oh, totally worth it. But yeah, he would do much better in this current system than he did back then.
Yeah, and there was a lot of people that were like hated that trade too. They're like, "Oh, I can't believe we got Taylor Hall as a bum and blah 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 blah." And now they're the same guys that are walking around wearing Taylor Hall jerseys. Like, there's some things that just drive me absolutely crazy. But I mean, there's
I know.
There's things that happen, and there's things that happen in the league that people plan out, and like you're saying, there's guys that you put them in the right situation with the right coach, and they flourish and they become, solid players. And sometimes it's just getting the right opportunity. Once again, Will Bauman bringing up Blake Coleman. That's my boy on this team this year. Like I loved Blake Coleman and Gibbons in the beginning of the year, and Coleman just carried that over. Like when you see him out there, sometimes like he's just grinding it out. Like that, we were talking about that PK earlier in the podcast about how he was tripped up, fighting for the puck, and he gets tripped up again. The crowd's booing like it's louder, the loudest boo I've ever heard in Prudential. But the dude's out there grinding it out. And now you bring in a Grabner, so now you bring in like an opportunity to rest other guys that would normally be on the PK. You're giving Coleman like those heavier minutes in the PK, so you don't have to rely on them, in other situations. And it's like, I don't know. It's great. I think they're heading in such a strong direction right now. Just tomorrow night's going to be a big game.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we'll see. I have not seen anything if Maroon's going to be here for tomorrow or not.
I believe he is. I think they said he's meeting the team in Pittsburgh.
In Pittsburgh? All right, cool. Mm-hmm. So I wonder if he'll get slotted right into the because he was 19 in Edmonton.
19, yeah. Does he go the old flipperoo and rock 91?
91.
Which you could do now.
It's possible.
Because, Lou's no longer there.
Lou's.
So you could wear.
That's true.
You could wear some crazy ass number and it'd be okay.
You can wear anything. I think Riche was the first exception to that rule, having 44, and Gilmore got the exception with. Didn't Gilmore and Mogilny get exceptions?
Mogilny had 89, but they were established players, and so that's why he kind of let it slide. Riche was an anomaly.
He was 44, so he.
Yeah, he was an anomaly because he was able to wear 44. But honestly, like I always find that interesting. I really wish he would take over 17 and just dominate with that number and stay, become a Devil for a long time, so I can go get a seam ripper and take the nameplate off of my Kovalchuk jersey and put a new name on the back.
Kovalchuk didn't even register me. My first thought was Sikora.
Well, see, that's the thing is I was gonna put. With my Kovalchuk jersey, I was going to take a seam ripper and take off the nameplate and put either Sikora on the back or put somebody that was going to hopefully take over the mantle of 17 and make it their number. But I wasn't going to do that with what the hell is his name? With Michael Ryder. So
yeah,
I mean, I could do it with Sikora, but I think I kind of want to wait and see who takes over that mantle.
Yeah, and if they don't, you have a Kovalchuk jersey, a Devils Kovalchuk jersey, and that's, whatever. I have one too, and it's in my closet. It is what it is.
Okay.
We just got a question though.
I was reading about, the same exact thing.
Yeah, the salary cap raising from 78 to 82, from 75 to 78 to 82, and I'm just looking up what we have as far as cap space
now, is
currently.
That a for sure thing? Is that a 100%? If that's 100%, if that's true, and salary cap is going up, first of all, that's great. That means league revenues are going up. Well, number
Yeah.
one is you don't want to. Whenever the salary cap goes up, you don't want to jump the gun and automatically spend to the ceiling, because God forbid there's a lull and there's a season that they have another GD lockout or something like that, and they have to
Yeah.
backpedal and lower the salary cap. Then you push yourself into a situation where you can be hamstrung and stuck with a bunch of contracts. With that being said, if this is true and the salary cap is going up that much, you lock up Taylor Hall either
Oh,
this
yeah.
year or during this summer. Lock him up long term. Take care of who you need to take care of, and you will still have a ton of space, because right now they still have
Yeah, totally.
a ton of cap space. Put some of that money in.
We've got
in a little bank-
7.3, currently 7.3 in cap space. That would
Yeah,
give us
so
so much more.
So take some of that money, put it in a little safe, hold it with Nico's name on it. Know that when he gets out of his rookie contract, that you're going to have something nice waiting for him.
Yep.
Think about the guys that you want to lock up long term, and maybe even during the summer. I don't know if it's this year or next year that Carlson. I think it's like Carlson and 3 other big name defensemen are going on the market. There's a couple decent guys that are going to be hitting the market this year, but do you wait and try to make a big splash where you could try to land, an Erik Karlsson, or you can land or even trade for him in the offseason and then just, try to sign him and lock him up for a big time deal. But they have flexibility, and that's what you need. You need that flexibility.
Well, and let's, looking at the roster now, I mean, Grabner's a UFA this summer. Maroon is also a UFA. So, we're going to have to, re-up those guys. Who else? Jimmy Hayes is a UFA. Drew Stafford's a UFA. Brian Gibbons is a UFA. John Moore is a UFA. Eddie Lack is a UFA. I mean, some of those guys we can get for, inexpensive, but Taylor Hall's a UFA, 2021. So, you definitely want to have money ready for him. You've got, Johansson, UFA 1920. So, you've got guys, but, then again with Johansson, you never know if he's going to be able to, come back and play at top level with, with the concussion.
Well, here's one name right off the top that's going to be becoming a UFA next year, and there's something really interesting that I want to tag along with this. John Carlson from the Capitals, who's a defenseman, Jersey born, has been quoted as saying that if given the situation, that he would sign with the Devils. I think he would be an amazing addition to their blue line. I think he would be, someone that's not going to break your bank, and not demand $10 million a year or $12 million a year like a Karlsson might. Erik Karlsson not being, but John Carlson, I think would be a perfect fit for the system. It'd be another kind of welcome home story, where you're having a Jersey guy come back home and could join the likes of Palmieri.
Yeah,
I think that's a very strong possibility of somebody that the Devils could aim or look at over the the summer and possibly bring in. And then
there we go. I just got him. Yeah, he just went to he went out west today.
And who knows, John Tavares? Who knows?
Man,
I doubt it. I highly doubt it. But at the same time, the Devils would be smart to at least kick the tires. See if there's any interest. If he chases free agency all the way, there's a lot of people that say Toronto is his landing spot. If the Devils are smart, kick the tires. Be like, dude, you live right around the corner. You see what we're building. Mm-hmm. You could be playing with Taylor Hall. Damn, that would be a sick
I would not be against it. Would not be against it. I know we just got something from Sam, talking about the Hall for Larson trade. That's my cousin Kenny that didn't like that trade that Sam just sent us there, Beer Baron. Yeah, but Ken, you know what though? 21 games in a row with points. Like it would be great to have, Larson's D, but you know what? The points that Hall is bringing in and all the things that he's saying, and they want to build the team around this guy, and he wants to be here. You know what? But let me look something up real quick. We traded Larson. When is he a UFA?
He's got probably another
did
year
they-
left on his contract. Because remember, the Devils just gave him a decent sized contract right before they dealt him out. I think they had given him a couple years and
Adam Larson. Yeah, 21, 22. So he's pretty good and wrapped up. Hey, but you never know. We'll trade. You know what? We'll do a trade and sign. If Maroon wants to go back to Edmonton, let's sign him and then trade him for Larson.
how crazy would that be? And then Adam Henrique comes back as a UFA, getting the band back.
There you
together.
go. Well, yeah, right. That could always happen too. You never know.
And that's. But listen, if the Devils want to make a big splash next year, it is such a pipe dream. It is not anywhere near a possibility. Or at least I don't think so. I mean, in reality, either Tavares is going to re-sign with the Islanders, especially after they made this deal with the new stadium coming in. Him being the face of the franchise, could be there for the rest of his career and this, that, and the other thing.
Yep.
But man, if they were able to figure it out, lock up Hall a long time, bring in Tavares, bring in John Carlson, all of a sudden, we're
looking like an unstoppable force
there to a, huh?
We're an unstoppable force almost.
I mean, that would be pretty nasty. That'd be pretty nasty. So
who
knows? That's the crazy thing is because we talked about who they were going to bring in for the trade deadline, and we didn't even have an idea. And they make a trade with the Rangers. So crazy things. We're living in the upside down.
Anything can happen at this point. With especially like you said, the trade with the Rangers, and anything can happen. And I think that the business that they've done over the last couple of days has been awesome, and the business all season to this point has been awesome.
Yeah.
Making a very hard move with Henrique, and then Vatanen coming in, and I still think he's once he really fully, integrates in, which he has for the most part, but I still think that there's more out of him that we just haven't seen yet.
I agree.
So we'll see. It's now it's a stretch run. And that's what
big time.
Man, this is where it gets exciting. I was thinking about this today. It's like it's getting to be March, it's starting to feel warm, and for the first time in 5 years, not only is spring on the way, but the possibility of late spring, early summer hockey for the Devils.
Oh my God. There's something about
that possibility.
There's something about going to a game and then walking out and it's warm and you're wearing shorts.
Yeah.
You're rocking your jersey and it just feels like it's like a completely different feeling. Like in that 2012 run, I remember going to I think it was the Panther series, or it was one of the games when it was like so hot outside. And I remember like I went in and I always wear like a hoodie and then I'll wear my jersey over top of it. And halfway through the game, I was like sweating balls, and like I remember like walking outside and I was just like, this feels so unnatural, like walking around in a hockey jersey and it's this damn hot outside. But it's like it's the best time of year.
It's what you live for. It's what you live for.
Nothing beats playoff hockey. Nothing beats playoff hockey.
Nothing.
Like any sport.
No,
I don't care.
Nothing.
People argue till they're blue in the face. Like the playoff basketball is a joke. Like there's two teams that are going to play for the championship every year. Who cares about basketball? Baseball is exciting. Baseball has its moments where it can be exciting. But I mean, playoff hockey, even if like the Devils are out of it, I could sit down and watch any series and become completely invested into any team that's playing because it's so damn intense and it's just so competitive and dudes go out there and get busted up in the face and get 32 stitches on the bench and go right back out. John Madden.
And you need 16 victories to win it all. And that's just if you win straight through. If you go, 7 games each series, I mean, you're grinding out games and you're playing long series. The playoffs is, yeah. It's one of the best, and I took the opportunity with the Stanley Cup being in the building. I took the opportunity to get a picture next to it. I didn't touch it. I would never, because I haven't won it. But I snuck a picture of it, which you weren't supposed to. What was that for? What, would you touch the cup?
No. Devils 10. It was the 10-year anniversary, 2013 10-year anniversary of the 2003 Cup. They were playing the Dallas Stars, and they brought the cup into the building. The Devils won that night. They beat the Dallas Stars, and they had this whole ceremony. I went to go get my picture with the cup, and I missed the entire second period and half of the third period. And I kept sneaking out of line and grabbing beers, and I was like pretty drunk by the time I got to the cup. And I got to the cup, and there's a picture of me, and I got to find it. There's a picture of me hugging the cup, just and the glazed over look in my eyes of just pure enthusiasm and just alcohol. It was fantastic. But, I can't say without definitely touched the cup. I basically took it on a date. So
yeah, you really did. Yeah. And you didn't even buy it a drink first. You bought yourself all the drinks.
I mean, I was a sloppy date, but it's okay.
Yeah, I took I got my picture with it, and they really weren't allowing personal pictures, so I grabbed one anyway. And I sent it to a group of mine of, mainly soccer guys. And I was like, this is the, and I was, I guess I was kind of buzzed. I was like, this is the best trophy, forget everything else and this and that. And it was like crickets from that group. None of them got it. I'm like, yeah, this is just, there's nothing like it. It was cool to see it in the building. And usually I don't go for pictures like that, but I was coming back, the line wasn't that bad, and I was like, yeah, what the hell? Who knows, when I'm going to see it again or when it's going to be, this accessible again. It's like, screw it, I'll go take a picture of it. It didn't really take that long. It was actually right after I bought the hat, so I guess in between the ceremony and, when warm-ups was going on and before the game started, so, it was like perfect timing, I guess, on my part. So it was, I'm just waiting. They're going to post all those pictures tomorrow, so I have to go online and find it and take it. I guess they're all complimentary pictures. They didn't want people taking, selfies with the Stanley Cup or something. I don't know. Whatever they were doing, it's going to be online tomorrow. I'm going to find it. I'll post it to the group just because I can. It's just a cool thing to get a picture with the cup. And I should find I have a picture of me standing next to the Stanley Cup in that case from back in '95. If I can ever find that, I'll post that one too.
Which, by the way, it was so funny that you brought that up because, like I said, my brother and I were talking about that, and he's like, "Do you remember that?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course I remember that." And we're talking about how I can actually visually in my mind see how the whole lobby was set up and where all the trophies were, and I remember walking up to each one and just looking at. I don't remember the Conn Smythe to me was one of the coolest trophies too. Just the details that are in the actual trophy itself, and like. Just walking down and reading all the things and reading about the Lady Byng and reading about all these different trophies and the meanings behind all of them and where what they mean and all this other stuff and being a kid and like you said I started really following hockey myself. Like I would go to my dad would bring us to games when I was little but I'd sit there and cheer but I didn't really know what I was talking about. And then you get to the point where you're like I think you're 11, 12 years old and you really start becoming like a fan of like teams and start rooting for teams and stuff like that. Getting excited or crying when they lose. So that was like the first time I remember walking up and looking at the Stanley Cup and being like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. Like the coolest trophy you could ever win.
I made a little Stanley Cup to bring to that game. And after the Devils won it, we must have played street hockey in the tennis court for that fake Stanley Cup that I made. all summer long. And I just
yeah.
every time we played, I brought it, and every time we played for it, and we all rose it over our head like like the Devils just did earlier that that summer in June. It was great.
If my buddy Will is still listening, some of my greatest memories in my life are playing hockey with my buddies 6 hours straight in the middle of August, in a dead end cul-de-sac at my buddy Krim's house, or the time that Will got his eyebrows split open by a blocker. Or no, he split somebody's eyebrow open with a blocker. Even during my wedding, like when my wife and I got married, we picked a place. We rented out a summer camp for a full weekend, and one of the selling points to me was that they had a hockey rink with a roof over top of it. And I got
That's so cool.
I got to play hockey with my buddies on my wedding day, like right before I got married. It was like one of the coolest things in the world, playing with my brother and all my buddies. Like I said, it's a very special sport that we're fans of, and this team is a very special team. And that ceremony, just to bring it all back and kind of like recap it, is just that a Saturday night I stood there and I watched one of my heroes get his number retired, and I started to get choked up. And a lot of that was thinking about all this kind of stuff, thinking about all my buddies who I don't often see, or who I don't have a chance to see all the time, or my brother who I see, once or twice a year. I'm always going to have this team and these players that bind me to my friends forever. And it's
the connection.
Exactly.
It's the connection you have, and that's what's great, and that's why we love it, and that's why we love this team. And you're right, it was a special night, and we currently have a special team that's almost building that core that Elias was a part of. It's like the second, hopefully the second coming of that core that's going to just bring nothing but massive success for this team. And you know what? Maybe they'll take Elias Knight and all the things that surround it, and looking at, I don't want to call it past glories, but looking at the history of what's there and what this franchise has done, like saying, hey, you know what? It's our turn. And just take that and just go all the way through and carry it on for the next couple seasons and beyond. And who knows?
And how could you not, as a player, be sitting there looking at the ceremony and listening to the fans going crazy about you, and seeing all the things that they set up, and watching the number go up in the rafters? Like, how do you not sit there and go, damn, I want this to be me. I want to be this guy that they're celebrating.
And what, 15 feet away from you, or is the trophy that you want to win?
Yeah.
It's like the carrot and the stick. It's like, here you go. This is it. And this is what we've done. And this is what you are now here to do. And that's your goal.
Dude, I'm so fired up right now.
Yeah, right?
I'm so fired up to watch a game.
This stretch run is going to be great. And, here's hoping it starts with Pittsburgh tomorrow. And just go from there and just not drop any more points to these divisional rivals, and just take command and make the playoffs. And once you make the playoffs, it doesn't matter where you are. You're in the tournament.
And there's something else that I don't know if I can't remember if we brought it up last week. The whole Devils versus everything, or Devils versus everybody.
Yeah, Devils versus everybody. Yeah.
Which is like the T-shirt that nobody will say where they came from. Like Coach Hines was asked, like, where did these shirts come from? And he goes, I don't know. That's a good question. So either one of the coaching staff or one of the players, kind of like brought this mantra into the locker room, and the fans were starting to adopt it as well. I think it is a perfect mantra for this team to have. There is no other help. Right now you're in a stretch run, and the way the schedule lined up is we're going to be playing a good chunk of these games against Metropolitan Division. These are the most important games of the season for obvious reasons, but they're also important because look at who you're playing. Tomorrow night starts with a game against Pittsburgh, and you can only hope that they go in there with this feeling of, you know what, we got to walk out of this building during regulation with 2 points under our belt. And I don't know. I think they'll take care of business. I just have a good feeling about what's going to happen tomorrow.
Yeah, I have a feeling I'm going to start saving money for June and having money for games to go to. Well, I thought that was Sam kicking us off. I was gonna close this out. There it is again. All right, I think Sam's getting tired of us. Sam
Hey,
from
yeah,
Beyond the
but you know-
Grave is.
Last week you and I said that sports that we go crazy about, and I think when we were talking about it just now, I kind of like it hit me. You know, like that passion, that connection that we have with the team, and our friends and family and stuff like that. That's why we get happy or upset during a win or a loss. So
Yeah. Big week this week. Pittsburgh
Huge.
tomorrow. Huge. Even playing Florida and Carolina, still big. So, any last words, Beer Baron?
hey man, let's go after it tomorrow. Let's
do it.
Let's get another big 2 regulation points.
All right. Not quite sure when we'll be on next, but we will post that. We'll get that out there. Devils Penguins tomorrow. And until next time, let's go Devils.